I'm Annie, and I never thought my life could unravel in one gut-punching moment. At 29, I'd carved out a small but proud place for myself in Harborview, a coastal Maine town where the ocean whispers secrets and the community knows your name. My event planning business, Seaside Celebrations, was my heart and soul, built from late nights, sketching table settings, and charming skeptical brides. I was the one who made dreams come true, turning chaotic ideas into perfect days. But that night, at my own engagement party, my dreams didn't just falter, they burned to ash. The rented beachside venue glowed under strings of fairy lights, the kind I'd spend hours hanging to make everything perfect. Guests mingled, their laughter mixing with the soft crash of waves. My fiancé, Oliver, stood beside me, his arm around my waist, his smile as polished as the real estate deals he chased. We were toasting to our future, glasses clinking, when my sister Chloe's voice cut through the crowd like a knife. "I'm pregnant," she announced, her red dress hugging her frame, one hand resting on her stomach. "And it's Oliver's baby." The world stopped. The champagne flute in my hand felt like it weighed 100 pounds, but I didn't drop it. Guests turned, their murmurs fading into a suffocating silence. Oliver's grip on me loosened, his face draining of color. Chloe stood there, her chin high, tears glistening for effect. My sister always had a flair for drama, but this was a performance I hadn't seen coming. Or maybe I had. Growing up in Harborview, I was the quiet one, the fixer. When Chloe borrowed my car and returned it with a dented fender, I paid for the repairs. When she sweet-talked my clients into hiring her for side gigs, only to flake, I smoothed things over. Our parents, who ran the family's seafood restaurant, the Lobster Net, always called her spirited, their eyes sparkling with pride. Me? I was reliable Annie, expected to forgive, to understand, to keep the peace. But peace was hard to come by when Chloe's shadow loomed so large. That night, as eyes bored into me, I felt the weight of their expectations. They wanted tears, a scream, a scene. Instead, I set my glass down on the nearest table, the clink echoing in my ears. "Excuse me," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside. My mom stepped forward, her face a mix of pity and panic. "Annie, sweetheart, we need to talk. Chloe's going through a lot." Of course she was. It was always about Chloe. "She's your sister," my dad added, his tone soft but aimed at her, not me. Chloe was already sobbing into Oliver's chest, my Oliver, the man I'd planned a life with. I didn't look at him. I didn't need to see the guilt in his eyes to know the truth. "I need some air," I said, turning toward the venue's exit. My mom followed me to the parking lot, her heels clicking on the wooden boardwalk. "Annie, you can't just walk away. Chloe's pregnant. This changes everything." I paused by my car, keys in hand, and looked at her. "You're right. It does." She exhaled, thinking I'd bend like always. But I wasn't that Annie anymore. "Chloe has you," I said. "She always has." Oliver's voice called my name as I opened the car door, but I didn't turn back. I drove through Harborview's quiet streets, the ocean scent clinging to the air, until I reached the one place where I could think, my great-aunt Clara's cliffside cabin. It was a weathered wooden haven perched above the Atlantic, where she'd once taught me to knead bread and face life's storms. Clara had been gone for a while, but her cabin, her journal, her lessons, they were still mine. As I sat on the porch, the waves crashing below, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I'd learned long ago that silence could be a weapon. What no one at that party knew was that I'd suspected something for weeks. Oliver's late-night meetings, Chloe's sudden illnesses, the way they avoided my eyes, it all added up. I hadn't just suspected, though. I'd prepared. A private investigator was already digging. My savings were safe in a new account. And just days ago, I'd convinced Oliver to take a DNA test, spinning a story about insurance paperwork. They thought they'd blindsided me, but I was ready. My phone buzzed with messages. Oliver's apologies, Chloe's excuses, my parents' pleas. I ignored them and dialed the one person who'd never bought Chloe's act, My great-aunt Nora, Clara's sister, and my rock. Saw Chloe's little stunt on social media, Nora said, her voice sharp as sea glass. She's claiming it's Oliver's kid. You okay? No tears yet, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. But I need your help. Does it involve making them regret this? Nora asked, a grin in her tone. I smiled for the first time that night. It might. Good, she said. What's the plan? The next 2 months tested every ounce of my patience. Harborview buzzed with gossip. My sister Chloe and my ex-fiancé Oliver were now the town's golden couple, parading their so-called love at the Lobster Net, my parents' restaurant. They'd even moved into the apartment I'd shared with Oliver, a cozy place above a bookstore where we'd once planned our future. My parents, ever Chloe's cheerleaders, called it a fresh start. I heard the whispers. Poor Annie had a breakdown. Chloe's just stepping up. It stung, but I stayed at Great Aunt Clara's cabin, letting them think I was broken while I sharpened my resolve. I wasn't idle. Weeks before Chloe's bombshell, I'd noticed the cracks. Oliver's phone buzzing late at night, his excuses about client dinners. Chloe's sudden food poisoning episodes, always when Oliver was around. I wasn't the naive girl they thought. Great Aunt Clara's journal, tucked on the cabin's shelf, had taught me better. Watch closely, Annie, she'd written. Betrayers always leave clues. So I'd hired a private investigator, a gruff guy named Ray who knew Harborview's underbelly. I'd moved my valuables to a safe deposit box, untangled my finances from Oliver's, and planted the DNA test idea in his head, claiming it was for future planning. He didn't suspect a thing. One morning, as fog rolled off the ocean, I sat with Great Aunt Nora at the cabin's kitchen table, coffee steaming between us. Nora, with her silver hair and sharp eyes, had never trusted Chloe. She sabotaged my library fundraiser once, Nora said, stirring her mug. Told everyone it was canceled so she could throw a beach party. Your parents called it youthful spirit. I called it selfish. She's telling everyone I'm unhinged, I said, scrolling through social media posts. Chloe's latest showed her and Oliver at the pier, her hand on her belly, caption New Beginnings. They're having an engagement party next week at the Lobster Net. Mom's calling it a celebration of family. Nora snorted. Family, my foot. Your mom's rewriting history again, pretending you didn't exist. She leaned forward. What's your move? I slid a folder across the table. Ray's report. Hotel receipts from a motel outside town. Time-stamped photos of Chloe with her ex, Tyler, before he skipped town. The credit card charges for fertility treatments, dated just after Oliver proposed to me. This, I said, tapping the folder. And the DNA results come soon. They'll show Oliver's, not the father. Nora's eyes gleamed. You're sure about this, Annie? Once you drop this bomb, there's no going back. Your parents, they'll choose her, like always. I nodded, my jaw tight. They made their choice when they let Chloe move into my life, like it was hers to take. My parents had always bankrolled Chloe's chaos, her failed influencer gigs, her shopping sprees, while I worked double shifts to afford college. Clara's journal had a line that stuck with me. The quiet ones don't just endure. They plan. I was done enduring. That afternoon, my phone pinged with a lab notification. The DNA results were ready. Perfect timing. Chloe and Oliver's engagement party was tonight at the Lobster Net, the same place where Oliver had proposed to me under the fairy lights. I slipped into a black dress, not for mourning but for power, and met Nora outside the cabin. Ready? She asked, her voice steady as the cliffs. Absolutely, I said, smoothing my dress. The ocean roared below, like it was cheering me on. The lobster net buzzed with chatter and clinking glasses, the scent of fried clams and sea salt heavy in the air. Chloe and Oliver's engagement party was in full swing, the restaurant's patio decked out in lanterns and flowers, my mom's touch, no doubt. I stood at the entrance, Great Aunt Nora at my side, my black dress a quiet rebellion against the festive glow. Inside, Chloe's laugh rang out, sharp and performative, as my mom introduced her as our glowing future. Oliver stood stiffly, his smile forced. They thought they'd won. Annie, my mom said, spotting me, her smile faltering. This is a private event. I won't stay long, I said, my voice calm but firm. Just here to share a gift. Chloe stepped forward, her hand cradling her belly, her eyes narrowing. Haven't you caused enough drama? We're celebrating. I smiled, remembering Clara's words. Let them think they've won, then show them they've lost. It's a special gift, I said, pulling an envelope from my purse. For the happy couple. Oliver's face went pale. That's the DNA test, he stammered. It was for insurance, right? Private. Family matters should be shared openly, I said, echoing my mom's favorite phrase. Right, Mom? Her mouth opened, but no words came. My dad stepped forward, his face red. Annie, stop this. You're making a scene. No, I said, my voice steady as the tide. Chloe made a scene at my engagement party. I'm just finishing it. I opened the envelope slowly, savoring the hush that fell over the room. These results show Oliver isn't the father of your baby, Chloe. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Chloe's face drained of color, her hand dropping from her stomach. Oliver turned to her, confusion morphing into fury. What's she talking about? I pulled out another document. Ray's report. Your medical records, Chloe. Fertility treatments with Tyler, your ex, right after Oliver proposed to me. You planned this when Tyler left you, didn't you? You saw my happiness and wanted it. Oliver's voice cracked. You lied? About the baby? About us? Chloe's tears came, her go-to move. I was scared. Tyler left, and I thought you'd love me, Oliver. Her voice broke, but I wasn't swayed. I'd seen her crocodile tears too many times. You thought you could steal my fiancé, lie about the baby, and have our parents clean it up, I said, turning to them. They stood frozen, my mom clutching a napkin, my dad staring at the floor. And you let her. You believed her without question, like always. We didn't know, my mom whispered, her voice trembling. You didn't want to know, I corrected. You never do with Chloe. The room was silent, the weight of truth settling like fog. Oliver stormed out, brushing past Chloe without a word. She sobbed, but no one rushed to her side this time. Nora stepped forward, her heels clicking on the hardwood. Think this party's done, she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. As we walked to the car, the ocean's roar felt like a victory cry. Clara would have been proud. But this wasn't the end. The DNA test was just the opening act. The fallout from Chloe and Oliver's engagement party spread through Harborview like wildfire. Oliver moved out of our old apartment the next day, leaving Chloe alone with her crumbling lies. Tyler, the real father, wanted nothing to do with her or the baby. My parents, who'd built their world around Chloe's charm, were left scrambling to save face. But I wasn't done. The truth I'd uncovered was just the surface, and Great Aunt Nora was about to dig deeper. One evening, over dinner at the cabin, Nora dropped a bombshell. Your parents have been funding Chloe's mess for years, she said, sliding a stack of bank statements across the table. Restaurant profits, Annie. Money meant for the family business. Your business, too, went to Chloe's credit card bills, including those motel stays with Tyler while you were engaged. I stared at the numbers, my chest tightening. I'd poured my heart into the lobster net as a teenager, waiting tables, balancing books, all while Chloe partied and racked up debts. My parents had always said her expenses were temporary, that she'd find her way. But these statements told a different story, thousands diverted to cover her lifestyle, even as I paid my own way through college. They knew. I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. They suspected, Nora said, her eyes soft but unflinching. But questioning Chloe was never their way. You were the one they leaned on, Annie. The one they expected to carry the load. It hurt more than I expected. I thought of all the times I'd stayed late at the restaurant, covering shifts so my parents could bail Chloe out of another crisis. Clara's journal had warned me. Family can betray you with love as much as with lies. I just hadn't realized how deep it ran. A few days later, my mom caught me at the local market, her eyes tired. Chloe's not eating, she said, clutching a bag of groceries. She needs her sister. I kept picking out tomatoes, not meeting her gaze. She needs to face the truth. Something you never made her do. We made mistakes, she admitted, her voice shaky. But she's still your sister. And I was still your daughter, I said, finally looking at her. Every time you chose her, you lost me a little more. She had no answer. I walked away, the weight of years lifting with each step. But the real game changer came a week later, when Nora arrived with a manila envelope from Clara's safety deposit box. Your great-aunt left you more than the cabin, she said, spreading documents on the table. It was a trust fund, set up for my wedding and future home, with a letter in Clara's neat handwriting. My dearest Annie, if you're reading this, they've pushed you too far. Use this wisely. The truth is your strength. There were also records. Every dollar my parents had taken from Clara to cover Chloe's debts, meticulously noted. Clara had known, even then, that I'd need leverage one day. With Clara's letter in my hands, I knew what I had to do. My lawyer sent copies of the financial records to my parents, attached with a simple note. The truth always finds a way. 2 days later, Chloe moved back home, her dreams of a perfect life with Oliver in ruins. My parents couldn't deny their role anymore. Years of enabling Chloe's lies had caught up with them. My dad called, his voice heavy. What do you want from us, Annie? Nothing, I said, and I meant it. I don't need anything from you anymore. That was my victory, not tearing them down, but cutting the ties that had held me back. I sold my share of the lobster net, the restaurant I'd once loved but now saw as a symbol of their favoritism. With Clara's trust fund and the sale, I bought a small property near her cabin, a weathered barn I transformed into seaside haven, a wedding venue overlooking the Atlantic. It was the dream I'd buried to please my parents, the one Clara had always urged me to chase. Create joy, Annie, she'd written. That's your power. Great-aunt Nora helped me renovate, her sharp humor keeping me grounded. On opening day, she gave me a gift, Clara's journal, rebound in leather with a new inscription, for Annie, whose quiet strength speaks louder than any storm. I kept the DNA test results in a drawer, not as a wound but as proof of my resilience. Chloe's baby arrived not long after, and I heard through Harborview's grapevine that she was struggling as a single mom. My parents were quieter now, their restaurant limping along without my help. I didn't gloat. Their choices were their own to carry. Oliver sent a wedding invitation from Boston, where he'd moved for a new job. I sent it back unopened. Some doors are better left shut. Now, as I sit on the cabin's porch, the sunset painting the ocean gold, I feel Clara's presence. Her journal taught me that victory isn't about winning fights. It's about choosing your path and walking it unapologetically. Seaside Haven is thriving, each wedding a reminder that I'm building something true. Chloe's betrayal didn't break me. It set me free. To everyone who's followed this journey, thank you. You've walked with me through betrayal, truth, and triumph. If my story moved you, hit that subscribe button and join me here, where every celebration tells a story of resilience, heart, and new beginnings. Keep carving your own path, and I'll meet you at the altar of your dreams.